Welcome to the AWS for AI podcast.
Welcome to AWS for AI, the podcast where we explore cutting-edge AI solutions and the innovators behind them. I'm your host, Hamza Mimi, AWS Solutions Architect. Today is a very special episode for me, as our guest is a friend and core member of this same podcast series. Mirabela Dan is an AWS Senior Solutions Architect with extensive background in software development, developer productivity, and generative AI. Our Romanian, British, and slightly German-Hungarian guest speaks 4 languages, can understand 5 more, and can code in a dozen more. Mirabela is a regular speaker in AWS summits and reInvents, always to sold-out rooms. She has been working with startups, small and medium businesses, and digital native businesses across her time in AWS, United Kingdom, and UAE, working alongside the likes of Kareem, Property Finder, and more. Mirabela is part of the application development specialist community and is my personal go-to person for AI software development, news, and technology chats. In this episode, we'll explore how we at AWS think about the next generation of developers, the key trends to watch for in developer productivity, CI/CD, and how Amazon leverages generative AI. Mirabela, I'm really happy to have you finally in this podcast series. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Hamza. And finally, so good to be here in this chair. I've been behind the scenes for quite some time, and we had many conversations about a potential episode we could be doing. So let's get rolling.
Let's get to it. So before we go into all of the technology discussion, I'm sure we'll have plenty of things to talk about. Can you tell us more about yourself and what's your background and where have you learned all the things that we always talk about?
For sure, Hamza. Thank you for asking. You've done such a great introduction of me. You've definitely made me look so international. Everyone will probably be thinking now that we're gonna switch the language any moment now. Spoiler alert: this is not the episode for switching languages. Check out our other episodes for that. We do have one. In this episode, we're actually going to be talking about development. So myself and Hamza, we've had quite a few water cooler conversations in which we were discussing what topic should we be covering in an episode between me and Hamza. And I've actually, just a bit about myself that he has not mentioned, I've actually been with AWS for 5 years now. So in Amazon terminology, that means that very soon, you will see me wearing a yellow badge. So 5 years is a really big thing when you are in Amazon because you get to change the color of your badge. We have this very interesting internal quirk that you can identify how long someone has been in the company by the color of their badge. So blue, yellow, red. So I will be a yellow badge. And that made me reflect a lot about my time here. And Hamza mentioned already, I've been working with different types of customers. I've always been a solutions architect. So one thing has stayed constant. I have started back in 2020. I have started in the startups team. So big shout out to the startups team. I have been in the UK over there for 2 years. Startups are builders, as you very well know. So I have been thrown in a deep end with those customers. Before that, I actually had another job. So AWS was not my first tech job. I used to work for a big travel company that some of you may be using on a daily basis, where I was in a team called Cloud Enablement. Sounds quite fancy. What did I used to do there? Well, I used to be embedded into developer teams. I was there to help them out. I was a little bit like a solutions architect, but very close to developers. Whatever developers had to do with the cloud or to develop their applications, I was there to help them out. In some days, it may have been troubleshooting. In some days, it may have been, how do I do this on AWS? Help me out. In some days, it may have been, help me write infrastructure as code. I had many, many interesting projects that actually led me, once I joined AWS, to naturally gravitate towards this area of builder experience. Why do I say builder experience? Well, in this episode, actually, it turns out we are explaining some AWS terminology to you as well. Yeah. So Hamza used internal community. We actually call it the technical field community. So when you join AWS as a solutions architect or as a technical account manager, basically as a builder, as we refer to ourselves, you have the opportunity to join one of these internal communities we have. So basically, solutions architects, the generalists, we are meant to be T-shaped in our knowledge. So we're meant to know a little bit about everything, and then we get to choose a specialty. And then because of my background, because in the past I've really enjoyed being close to developers, my training was in software development as well. I did computer science too, like the real C++, everything, but I actually really enjoyed being close to the developers. So I naturally gravitated towards specializing in what we then called builder's experience. Now, I spent 2 years in startups. I really enjoyed that time because I was very close to the builders. You know, in startups, everyone is quite hands-on, and I was lucky to work with early-stage startups customers as well. So that meant that the people I was talking to, they were owning the product, they were building the product, they were writing the code, they were very well-rounded, so they had challenges all over. And then I was part of this community as well. And then 2 years in, I wanted to basically broaden up my skills a little bit and go work in a new region, in a new up-and-coming region. We had just opened a region in the UAE. That brought me over here to Dubai. And over here, I started working with small and medium businesses. Now, some of you may be thinking, interesting, you go from startups to small and medium businesses, but I would like to think of it in a different way. So as an SMB SA, you're actually responsible for a territory, right? So you are responsible for cloud adoption in a territory, no matter where your customers are. Whether they have never even heard of AWS before, or they're super agile, I actually had both across the spectrum. You actually had to help them all. So I had to put, I had my builder's hat on from my startups time. I had to take it off a little bit because they were not the customers that we would go in and go straight on to the tech with them. We had to understand where they were, understand their journey, understand how to help them. So that actually, I would say, even though I took my builder hat off for a bit, it actually helped my builder hat become bigger because I had to understand different perspectives when it comes to building. And then 2 years on, I actually started in my current role, which I absolutely love, where I work with digital natives. So I call them sometimes teenager startups. I kind of went back, I went across learning from different types of businesses, and then I sort of went back to the builders, as I call them, my startups now that they've grown up. And why am I telling you this long introduction? Is because one thing has stayed common. It was my participation in this internal community we had. And just the fact that I was able to basically grow with my customers, see them at all the different stages, has enabled me, with my specialism, to see how different customers work with builders. And then something also very important happened. A couple of years ago now. It feels like yesterday, but it's actually been years, which was the introduction to AI in development. So I remember when I first started in this community, my specialism was infrastructure as code, because that's what I used to do in my previous customer. That's something I started with. I was part of, if you're familiar with the CDK, the Cloud Development Kit, it's a framework for writing infrastructure as code. I was part of the community for that. I was part of the community day for that. So it was a very vibrant community back then. Mm-hmm. 5 years ago, I naturally gravitated towards infrastructure as code. And today, if I look at what I help the community with, I mostly work on AI. Because what happened, we went from being builder's experience to being next generation developer experience. And now we talk about AI and builders every single day. And everything has changed so much. It's only been 5 years. But you see, even when I talk to you, I'm like, okay, it's years ago now that this AI change has happened.
Exactly. And you've watched the emergence of AI in the developer space and the massive implication it has. Can you talk a little bit about what changes, how you've seen that developer role evolve in, 2020, 2021 to 2025 now? How that role itself, a developer, evolved with the AI technology coming in?
Yeah, I think we need to separate them a little bit as well. And we need to think as well about how developers themselves have changed. And again, the fact that I work with different types of companies has helped me see different types of developers and their different types of challenges as well. So if we are to go back a long period of time, what was the main challenge of development? We wanted to build our applications. We wanted to wake up one day and say, this is my dream, this is what I want to build. But then the time from idea to actually having it in production was very, very long. Why? Because back then the tools we had were slow. We didn't have the smart IDEs of today, which takes us back to AI. We didn't have the smart IDEs of today. We didn't have the infrastructure that we have today. So I was actually, again, in a previous role, I actually had to schedule in time with developers to actually put their application packages on servers, which is not the case now with DevOps and with being very agile. Now developers, in some cases, they have an idea, they write the code, they push the code, and at most, there is a human review, ideally, before they go to production. So with cloud, with infrastructure, and with better IDEs, developers can go from idea to production in a lot less time. Now introduce AI to the project, because you still have here something which is the knowledge gap. Maybe I have an idea, but my idea is for a complicated multiple user system that will allow me to use payments. I'm a front-end developer. I don't have the skills to integrate payments into my application. Just giving an example. With AI, however, even though I'm a front-end developer, if I properly explain this idea to whatever AI tool I'm working with, that would be able to help me. So my time from idea to production is even lesser now. So the developer role itself has changed because now we are a lot more agile. But with the advent of AI, it's been shortened even more. So that introduces a couple of changes to me as a developer. Because now I have to worry about more things as well. So what I was telling you in the previous example is good. I wake up one day, I have an idea, I can push it to production. Sounds dreamy, right?
Yeah.
But what also came into the picture, and this also started happening maybe not in 2020, you were asking me about 2020, but around that time. Back in the day, we only had a couple of programming languages. And we had assembly, C.
I started learning assembly first.
I started with Pascal. I actually started with Pascal. When I was 11, I got taken to a computer lab and I was like, now you start learning Pascal. I didn't put the two and two together of how that will help me out in the future. So back in the day, we had this very higher level programming languages. They were building layers of abstraction, but it wasn't easy to grasp. But still, as a developer, if I wanted to be a developer, I could get a book on assembly, learn it, and get on with my life. The rest of the parts of the job would maybe be done by other people. Remember my example where I was telling you the developer would write the application, package it up, then go to operations. Operations would deploy it for them. And now let's go back to my other example. A developer writes their code, including systems for payments, and they're able to deploy to production. But as a developer, now I need to understand much more. So on the one side, we have AI, which helps me do much more than yesterday. Because even if I don't know the tools, now I can do things. But on the other hand, as a developer, now I need to be aware of so many other tools that were not there back in the day. I used to work a lot with front end as well. And front end has changed so much. Every other probably minute now, there is a new framework, a new way of rendering. There's a lot for us to keep up with. So now we have to keep up with a lot in trends of development, and now we have to keep up with a lot in trends of AI. So there is a lot of knowledge overload, I would say. It's making our life easier, but it's also more difficult in terms of us having to be aware of all of this.
For my own experience in the developer world, I started as well learning assembly, then move into C. Then I've learned that we have actually something that's called C++. And then you learn about Java and started basically earlier put in a lot of code to just put something in the memory.
Yes.
And then you learn that that's actually can take like 3 letters in a higher level code or language. And then as you learn more and as the technology evolves, basically you put less characters, less words for the final results you want. With AI, you get even less words
Exactly.
to generate, like at the end of the day, you get assembly-like codes that generated somewhere. So we're just getting higher and higher that chain. But that's the past, right? Let's talk about the present. Now we have AI. It's in most developers' life. If you're watching this, I'm sure it is. What do you think are the challenges today for developers?
So I was already mentioning the knowledge overload of developers. You have AI. AI can help you. It's great. But how do you know which AI tool to use? Because every day something changes. And as a developer, my job, maybe, is to write code. We all know when we look at the software development lifecycle that actually a developer's job is a lot more than writing code. They have to plan, they have to write the tests, secure, maintain, and then the circle goes around. So I would say the biggest challenge today when it comes to developers is thinking which AI tool to use and how to make the most of AI. Because back in the day, and I find it so funny, I'm saying back in the day to refer to when AI was introduced as if it was something 20 years ago. Going back to our AWS services, for example, I need to mention them. When Code Whisperer was launched, Amazon Code Whisperer, the most it was doing was code auto-completion. So as a developer, I would make the most of it by using it to auto-complete my code, maybe ask some questions and answers as it came, but I would be interacting with it via comments. So as a developer, I had to write good comments in order to get good AI output. It was a little bit like prompt engineering, but a comment can be 1 line, 2 lines. Nowadays, we have agents that can do much more. But that also brings us to another challenge on behalf of developers. So firstly, AI tools can do so much more these days. It's not just about code auto-completion. If you're just using AI as a developer for code auto-completion, you are not making the most of it. Agents can do much more, but that comes with risks. Yeah. We all know with AI, sometimes you can get hallucination. You can get different outputs to what you wanted to get out of it. So sometimes I say the output is only as good as your prompt was, because if you, as a developer or as an AI user, if you're not explicit enough in your prompt, maybe the answer will not be suitable to what you need. And we also have some security risks that can come as a consequence to the use of AI, basically. Because now we have agents, they're great. We can tell them, go do something. But we also need to think of, okay, but how much can it actually do? Yeah. How much do I want it to do? How do I control this entity? How am I so specific to tell it what to do and to restrain it in what not to do so that it doesn't go and delete my database in prod?
Yeah.
As an example. So developers today, firstly, we need to think out of the knowledge overload, which tool do I actually go and use? There's so many. We have our own in AWS. We actually have more than one. So even within AWS, you have to think, even within one ecosystem, what is the one tool that's right for me? Then you have the tool, then you have to choose, okay, what is the one model that's right for me? Because the tools give you choice of models. And then you have to think, okay, how can I put guardrails on these tools so that they only do what I want them to do? So it's hard. It is actually quite hard. And it is a question that pops up a lot, especially when I work with enterprise customers. They are really keen to adopt AI, but the questions I get from them are always around security and controls.
Yeah.
And how do I actually make sure that my data doesn't get leaked, that my data gets processed where I want it to be, and how do I make sure that the agents don't go and delete my databases in prod?
I know you talk with your specialist hats, you talk to customers all over, I guess mostly EMEA, about their developer experience challenges. Can you tell us maybe what's a standard AI enhanced pipeline now as compared to the all-time DevOps CI/CD pipeline?
Yeah.
Where do you see AI bringing the most value, and what are enterprise customers doing to control that?
Plenty of things here,
Yeah.
and it's probably not where you think it may be, from what I noticed. So I've already mentioned the software development lifecycle. It's a framework I always like to go back to when I like to go into the theory of software development, which I do sometimes. So I always, when I sit down with developers, I ask them. And if you're watching us on somewhere where you can comment, please comment and tell me if I'm right or wrong. There is a study that actually shows that developers spend less than 1 hour a day writing code. They spend most of their time doing other things. Now, what are these other things? Let's go back to my theory. So in the software development lifecycle, it shows that first you need to plan. So you would be planning what you're going to write. And then you write. And then you test. And then you secure, maintain. And then you go back all over because you have a new feature and your product manager just rang you and told you, well, we did this UX focus group and they told us we need to change the UI and so on and so forth. So as a developer, sometimes we think, okay, we spend less than 1 hour writing code. So how about we fix the writing code? We want to be writing code. Let's use AI to fix that problem. But if you're only fixing that problem, and remember I said, well, Gen AI in development started as autocomplete. This is basically fixing the let me write code problem. But if you're only fixing that problem of 1 hour a day, you're ignoring the rest of, how should I say, 70%. I'm not coming up with percentages now, but you're ignoring the rest of the software development lifecycle. So I personally think that AI, like a real enhanced AI development pipeline, can work in other areas of the SDLC. Normally, when I sit down with developers, I ask them. And again, if you want to contribute to us, let us know. I ask them, what is the one task that you would really, really like not to have to do in your day-to-day work? Some of them say tests. And that's very easy to solve because that goes back to the create problem. Generative AI can write tests for us. That's an easy solution. Actually, I'm maybe overreacting, but I would say writing unit tests is an easy fix if that's what you don't like doing.
There's still some discussions around should the tool you're using write tests or execute tests, and that's something we'll probably
let's go into
later.
that one into 1 second because that creates a whole other pair programming issue. So I would like to focus actually on the next step. This is what I told you, let's park that one because I want to focus on the next step, right? So we write tests, we secure, then we maintain and modernize. So how often do we actually write some code that looks good and then we check it in and everything looks great, we merge it, it's in production, fantastic. Oopsie, things break. And things break and it pings, not me, it pings someone else from the team. They get paged at 2 a.m. to go fix it. Now, I'm not sure about you, but if I were to get paged at 2 a.m., I would have my eyes half open. Now, I would be a little bit like, okay, what's broken? Where do I even start? You get faced with an alarm. Something broke, it's an alarm, it's ringing, I need to solve it, my customers cannot access the website. Especially when you're in a complex situation with microservices, with a big code base, where do I even start? So I would say this is actually a really good use case and a really good AI enhancement that you can add in your development pipeline. It's not in the creation phase, it's in the fix me phase. Because AI can go, especially now with agents, it can take its information from multiple sources. It can put it together. It can take a look at your alarms. It can take a look at your code base. It can put a hypothesis together about why things have broken and then come back to you with a potential resolution as well. And it can actually tell you, in order to fix it, you can do this. So me at 2 a.m., rather than going scrambling all over, trying to see what were the previous issues that got tackled, what was the previous code that got merged, let me go see which one do I need to roll back, what's happening. That's assuming I don't have automated rollbacks, by the way, which are not in the scope of this podcast, but I love to talk about. So yeah, let's go back to the manual. I see this in my customers a lot, the manual rollbacks. So at 2 a.m., I don't have to go and check all of this. What do I have to do? Go take a look at the hypothesis. Okay, there's quite a lot of reading there. Go take a look at that, read it, apply judgment to it, still as a human, take a look at what the AI is proposing to me, and then apply the fix. It makes my life so much easier. And that actually can save hours and hours and hours of different engineers getting paged at 2 a.m. And it's not just in times of, I would like to say, it's not just the time that it can save, it's also the energy that it can save, because you're in a totally different mindset when you sit down to write some code and AI helps you than when you are desperately trying to find a solution and AI is there as your North Star. It's totally different. So I would say, yes, we can use AI for creating code. Going back to your question about enhanced pipeline, yes, we can use AI to create code. We can use AI to write the unit tests. We can use AI to help us fix things. But what I also tell my customers and ask them, do you consider this? Is using AI for suggesting improvements, which takes me to secure to that part of the SDLC. So I always speak to customers. They're like, yeah, it's auto-completed. I put the prompt. It gave me a prompt suggestion. It gave me some code suggestions. I accepted them. Everything is great. I'm talking to it. I'm using chat. I'm using agents maybe. It's created a feature for me. And then I asked them, did you ever ask AI to suggest improvements to your code? And we actually have this baked into QDeveloper. It's one of the baked-in agents. You can take a look at your code and review it from a security perspective. So you can take a look at some OWASP security vulnerabilities and review my code against them, which is good. It's something we can add into our pipeline automatically even. But something that developers don't think of, and I'm not sure why, I have an inkling, is asking AI, this is my code. Here is my website, my payments website. How can I actually improve this? How can I make this better? And AI, especially in my experience with the tools that we have, it can actually suggest improvements for how the website works. It can suggest me UI, UX improvements, and it can even suggest me improvements for potential new features I can add. So that's the creative side of AI. This is what a lot of users don't think of. I feel we are being quite reactive when it comes to AI. I want something, I'm asking it to do something for me, or I'm asking it to fix something for me. But how about I'm asking, give me some ideas, give me some opinions.
So you've talked about the life cycle, and one of the interesting thing is developers actually don't spend most of their time writing code. One of the things they spend time on is reading code.
Yes.
And it's usually more than the time they spend on writing code. Currently in that pipeline, when we heavily included AI tools into the mix, AI is writing code. And also linked to that point about writing just few words and generating a lot of code. The blocker into shipping to production is the guardrails that humans are still put in as part of the loop. How do you see enterprise grade software being shipped in a context where we heavily use AI, but we still need to put all of these guardrails? We need to control them by human because current state of AI is really good, but it's not perfect. And in highly regulated industries, in use cases which are really critical, you can just trust AI. So how do you see that SDL, software development life cycle, being blocked currently, and how can we make that ship faster? Faster time to market and so on.
Yeah, for sure. It's the first paradigm I mentioned. I have an idea, I want it in prod, right? And AI is making it faster, but we still have, as you mentioned, the human in the loop. I personally still see the need for a human in the loop for now. We have on both sides. So I have my idea, I want it in prod. On both sides of this, let's say, process, we have today some guardrails. And we obviously have the human guardrail as well. We have guardrails when it comes to code review. And we have guardrails when it comes to a stage of the software development lifecycle that I have intentionally left out because I want to discuss that in a lot more detail than we did. So I mentioned, and you were tackling more around, okay, I've vibe coded something, but I'm doing my payments website. Again, my coding school example.
Yeah. You can demo that. Can you put it in production?
I could, but let me tell you how. Let me tell you how. So I have my idea of my payments website. That would be a regulated website because it deals with car details. I'm just saying. So I've built it with AI. I vibe coded it. And then I used AI on the end of the software development lifecycle, again, to do a review of what it's written, to tell me, are there any security issues here? Are there any improvements? Basically, what I was just telling you, I can write my code and then I can ask it to review it for security for me. I can ask it to improve it for me. That is great. I'm still the human. I'm still in control of this. Yeah. What we have recently introduced as a term, with the introduction of one of our new services as well, is dealing with more the start of the software development lifecycle. So it's tackling this problem of us still needing human in the loop when it comes to vibe coding from the very beginning of the software development lifecycle. And what was the first part of that? It was the planning phase. Normally, as a developer, before you start writing any code, you should have your, say, any tool, insert tool like Jira ticket. You should be sitting down. I used to have stand-ups and stand-downs and retros, and we used to work in an agile fashion. So normally you should be sitting down with your product managers, business analysts, especially in an enterprise, look at all the proposed features and then assign different sizes to different tickets and then assign the tickets to people. This is more the planning phase. So as a developer, I always have an assigned ticket that I'm working on. I know what the features are that I need to implement. In theory. In practice, I know this sometimes changes, but the message here is that I always know what I should be working on. Now I take this, I give it to the agent.
You do your PI planning, you define tasks, and then
exactly
for the next 3 months, you know what to do.
Technically, yes. Yeah. But practically, sometimes we know that the tickets are not so very detailed. And I still take it and I still go and implement the code for it. Or even better, I take it and I give it to the AI. And I tell it, take this. It says, add a new page to my payments website where people can buy insurance against faulty payments. Again, I'm just giving an idea. And I just take that and I give it to an AI tool to implement it for me. And then as a human, maybe I will have the security reviews, maybe I would have the code improvements, everything. And as a human, I still control how it goes to production. Now, what we have just introduced as an idea, as a way of doing development is spec-driven development. Remember my ticket? Remember my story, my user story of as a user, I would like to be able to add insurance after I complete my payment. With spec-driven development, actually, it adds on to vibe coding. So you don't just take whatever you want the AI to implement and you give it to the AI tool and the AI tool implements it for you. We take a step back. So we discuss with AI on, I will tell you what I want to implement. You, instead of just going and implementing, you help me build specs and write specs in detail about how that will actually look like before you go and implement. So that moves the human in the loop from the end of the software development lifecycle where let's face it, sometimes you don't pay so much attention. You just ship it, you've taken it, it looks good, you ship it. It moves the human in the loop to the beginning of the software development lifecycle, where I've told the AI tool what I wanted to implement. I want to implement an insurance page. The AI tool will then take that, and I'm speaking now from the user interface of our newly launched IDE, Kiro. The AI tool will take that, and it will write for me a detailed user story of everything, what it should do, the functionality. As a user, I want to be able to press this button here in order to go to the next page, stuff like this. Then it will also write a detailed system design document where it will tell me, okay, the infrastructure for this will look like this, the UI for this will look like this, we will have the button of green color of this size, and then it will write a third file where it will tell me, these are the steps in very detail that I will take to implement this. So remember my button green, I will go and write the relevant React on click that will go and implement this based on my CSS and so on and so forth. So now my human in the loop, what does it do? It has to take a look, rather than taking a look at what the AI has done, which can be a lot. Sometimes it can be very verbose and not everything can be needed for what I've asked it. Takes a look at the beginning. And it's much easier to read because it explains it to me in user-friendly language. I am now not just the developer, I am also the product manager. I'm working backwards, as we like to say at Amazon. Is this what my customer wants? Let me put myself in the shoes of the product manager, of the customer. Is this actually what I want to implement here in this feature? And then I'm actually looking at all the details of everything that will be implemented and how. So at this stage is my decision point now. My decision point is not, it's there, let me see if it fits. My decision point is it really what I want it to be?
Basically help the AI understand better what you're asking for.
Exactly. And you may be telling me now, in my question, I asked you how to make this faster.
Yeah.
You've just told me how to make this slower. So congratulations, you have succeeded in not answering my question 101%. Thank you so much. It does look like it takes time. Right? It does look like it takes time. And I may sound now like not so nice and friendly when I tell you, would you rather invest some time in properly planning, or would you rather invest some time in getting the result from the AI and then telling it this is not what I wanted, and then it giving me another result, and then me again telling it this is still not what I wanted, and then rewriting everything I've told it, even though I've just asked it to change one small thing?
Yeah.
Would you rather have this calm experience here, where I am in control of what I'm asking you to do, or would you rather have the bounce back experience on the second side? And it's not a problem of today. It is more of it sort of is a problem of today, but not so poignant, because right now we are all very excited about trying new AI tools, but the conversations have started around the pricing of AI tools. So maybe, and again, not so friendly point, but remember in the second part where I'm telling it, try again, try again, try again, try again. That's tokens in, tokens out. That could have been avoided by just me doing the proper thing from the very beginning. So it sounds longer, sounds more boring, maybe to some people, but it can actually avoid so much hassle down the road, and it actually provides you with documentation. Documentation is another task that developers don't like doing. And I go to organizations, to enterprise customers, and I realize they don't have much documented at all when it comes to everything in their infrastructure, in their code. So this just starts with it from the very beginning.
This seems to me like with the evolution of software development, we moved in the recent years to the agile framework, where we really focus on that particular part we want to do, and everybody wants to do that part. With the spec-driven development, we're basically using AI to go back to almost a waterfall kind of design, but doing it much faster.
Yes.
and get in all the right steps in the beginning so the end result is actually better.
Exactly.
And I do like the system design part because we never focused on that. Now you have a proper document with your system design, with all of the criteria you want your system to be using. You validate that, you spend time. The tool actually pushes you to spend time on that. And then once you agree on it, basically you have this framework agreement with the AI to generate what you actually need.
You would be spending this time anyway.
Yeah.
And I actually, some time ago, actually, before AI was even a thing, I remember I told you I was in infrastructure as code. The amount of times I had customers come to me and ask me, kindly, humbly, I'm so sorry. I have so many things in my account. Is there any way I can export an architecture diagram or anything, just a list, maybe anything of all of these resources I have in my account, because I cannot put them together? Because as a solutions architect, I used to do this. The first thing you would ask customers in any meeting, you would join a meeting and you would start it, you would be like, do you have an architecture diagram for what you're trying to do? And then they would shy away and they would be, well, actually. So with AI now, we can actually ask the AI tool, create the infrastructure as code for me with an architecture diagram, with pricing, or I can even reverse engineer, give it an architecture diagram. Maybe I saw serverless patterns on the internet. I take a picture of that. And now with multimodal, by the way, can actually give it to an AI tool. We can do this in our AI tools and ask it build this for me.
Yeah.
Which helps us solve so many issues that we had in the past about discovery, service discoverability, architecture discoverability. So we're going back to the basics, it sounds, of, as you mentioned, system design, but also it helps us architect software and infrastructure a lot better than we used to in the past.
I want to spend some time talking about the recent announcements from AWS. The Spec-Driven development was released in the New York Summit recently with Kiro. Can you speak a bit about what's Kiro and what problem does that solve?
Absolutely. I've actually not spoken too much about the AWS services, so I've really enjoyed having a conversation about development, but I do want to update our audience about what we launched because I'm so excited about it. So you're very right. Close to the New York Summit, which was in July, we actually launched our own IDE, AI IDE, AI-Powered IDE. So again, you may be wondering, I can read your mind, Hamza. We've known each other for too long. You may be wondering why launch an AI-powered IDE when you already have an AI tool for development called QDeveloper. Well, this IDE has something special, which we've already given you spoilers on, which is the spec-driven development. So now when you actually open your IDE, you get asked, how would you like to develop? In the normal way as before, I do chat, I tell you what you want to do, or do you want to develop as in a spec-driven development fashion? Which is where I was explaining that you give it the task, and it takes the tasks, and it breaks the task down into the user stories, into the system design, all the infrastructure and architecture points, and also it gives me a breakdown of all the tasks that you will take to actually implement this. And it actually implements it as well. So I can give it some feedback, and then I can actually tell it when I'm good with the feedback, I can tell it, okay, proceed, and then it will actually go and implement this. So it's agentic to start with, right? So we have now our IDE, which has an agentic first interface, basically. So QDeveloper, the main difference between this and Amazon QDeveloper is available wherever you do your work. So you can use QDeveloper in your IDE of choice, VS Code, IntelliJ, Eclipse. You can use QDeveloper in the AWS console. You can use QDeveloper as a CLI tool. Kiro is standalone. And now with Kiro, we have an agentic first interface, as I mentioned. So part of that is the spec-driven development, but it also comes with MCP. So it has a small box for MCP where I can natively integrate it with MCP servers, which again is great because I gave you an example of I can now go and ask the AI tool to write infrastructure as code for me and calculate the cost for it and give me an architecture diagram. How do I do this with the latest information from external sources? Well, I do it with MCP. So we actually have an AWS Labs released MCP server for cost calculations. I actually use that a lot. Yeah. So I can ask any AI tool of my choice, be it QDeveloper, can you please calculate the cost for this infrastructure for me? And you can go use that MCP server and take the latest information from the pricing calculator and write for me a very nice outcome of what the cost for this will be as well. And with Kiro as well, what we can also do, we have MCP and we also have some further features that help us when we develop with agents. We were speaking earlier about the challenges with AI today, and we were talking about control over these agents, over AI. So with Kiro, actually, we can do agent steering, which again is a fancy term. But we used to see it before in a similar fashion with QDeveloper as well. We basically give the agent instructions of how we want it to act. So we would tell it, act like this, act like that, use these variable names, just as an example, develop for me in this fashion as per my guide, as per my enterprise requirements, and so on and so forth. So I have, again, this overarching control over the agent where I can tell it how I want it to behave. And I do this again at the beginning, before the agent even started, rather than at the end where I get the result and I'm like, oh, no, this is never gonna fly in my company. So again, we're moving this human in the loop a little bit earlier in order to get better results down the line. And we also have with Kiro agent hooks, which again helps us a little bit, by the way, with the controls over the result. And with agent hooks, we can instruct an agent to take an action upon us doing something, for example, to our files. So when we save a file, say I'm done writing my website. Well, I'm done writing the front end for my website, and I have a couple there of React files and components, and I'm done with that. Okay, so when I'm saving that, I want an agent to run and go and perform a security check, just as an idea. So I can do that with agent hooks. Like I now have a bit of a pipeline in my running of agents, which is again something that a lot of customers were asking, because with QDeveloper we had to be a little bit more manual in asking it to perform a review, do that. And when I was telling you about my conversations with customers where I was telling them, did you ask it for improvements? No. Why? Because I need to think of it. I need to think that I need to do it, and it's quite manual. Whereas this, I can automate this. Yeah. So with Kiro, we have agentic first, we have spec-driven development, of course, which is the main breakthrough when it comes to this IDE. It's a new way of working. I would say some people have done it before as well. I used to do it, for example, I used to do it even before. But I'm very cautious, as you can see. I used to ask my agents to write a plan before actually execute it. So that's definitely doable. But now it's there, it's in my face. So as a developer, as a user of this AI tool, I know I have this option, and I know to think, should I be doing it like this, or should I be doing it the normal way? Let me try. Let me see what are the results that I can get. I also still want to give a shout out. By the way, I've been talking about Kiro quite a bit, about the spec-driven development, about the agent hooks and all the agentic features. Still want to give a shout out to QDeveloper. As I mentioned, QDeveloper MCP integration, it's there as well in the CLI, in the IDE. MCP integration in QDeveloper is also rather new. So we've added it a couple of weeks ago, and I would definitely tell you, if you are someone who really likes their current tools. I know developers, I've been working with them. They like their ecosystem. They spend a long time in choosing the right theme for VS Code, and they take pride in that. I use a light theme in VS Code, and many people judge me for that, but it's just easier for demos. I honestly, it's always a very bad joke that I have to make at the beginning of calls. When I start doing demos to developers, I open my VS Code. I use VS Code just as I open my VS Code, and I always have to make the bad joke in front of them that I'm sorry, I use a light theme. Because I know they will judge me. Like light theme.
I'm a dark team as well.
See, light theme in the developers world, they would be like, what is going on with you? It's just easier to read for demos. So I know developers, they like to spend a lot of time just creating an ecosystem where they thrive. So they have their extension, they're configured, they have their themes, they have everything ready for them in their IDEs of choice. If you are that part of our audience, please take a look at QDeveloper. If you are not ready to fully move to a new IDE, take a look at QDeveloper. You can plug it in as an extension to your IDE, and it has a lot of similar functionality. So it has agentic mode. It can take actions on your behalf. You would tell it. You don't have spec-driven development there out of the pocket today. At the time of the recording of this podcast, we don't have it. However, you can creatively use it. Yeah, you can ask it to write a plan and save it as part of the context before it actually does anything. And you can review that plan and suggest any changes to it.
I actually used Kiro to build an app for the podcast descriptions and chapters. And it really is worth the try. I like you've touched on the design part, the system design, the spec-driven. But once it designs that, it gives you the steps, and you feel that you are more in control of what it generates. You just go, it generated for me like 16 steps. Each step you just click, and it asks you, do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do that? Do you want to trust me with these things in the future? And then you actually learn how it does things, and you validate along the way. And by the end of it, you feel like you actually built that code. It's not just AI generated it, because you actually validated multiple steps to get there.
And you learned so much as well.
Yeah.
I saw a post just the other day of someone who said, it was one of those viral posts, I'm sorry. But there was someone who said online that, I was learning JavaScript. But by the way, instead of going and following a tutorial, I open an IDE with an AI tool, and I'm learning as I'm building. And it's a great way of using AI as well to learn, because you can ask AI to do something, and then or how to do something, and then you can ask it, please explain to me step by step why you did you did what you did. You can highlight bits of code and be like, explain this to me. So it's great for beginners. It's great for people who are new to code bases, because you can get an explanation of what's going on in different code bases, different files, different parts of your applications. So there's also another way of leveraging AI to accelerate us a little bit, which may not be obvious, but it's cutting down so much time.
When I talk to customers about QDeveloper, they always mention the code transformation part and the upgrades. Can you talk a bit about what's fascinating about that?
Yes, so actually today we have Java transformation. Again, at the time of the recording of this podcast, we have Java transformation in QDeveloper, which is actually something that we used internally at Amazon as well to upgrade our own Java applications, and it took us minutes rather than days. I've tested it myself, and I think it was Java 8 to 17, if I remember correctly, and it does 21 as well, but I'm thinking now in the terms of my example, just to give you like an idea of the time. And for one of the code bases I tried, it was only less than half an hour. So it took a look at the libraries I'm using, at the dependencies, and it actually, again, it provided me with a plan. So plans used to exist before spec-driven development. They were in the transformation feature of QDeveloper. So it provides me with a plan. It's telling me I'm going to upgrade this to this, this to this, this to this code to that code. So it's giving me a lot of details before it proceeds, which leads to less changes needed in the future and less breaking changes.
And less manual work.
As well. Yeah. And that's again one part of the software development lifecycle that everyone just ignores. Everyone just ignores because it takes so much time. And if it's working, why touch it?
Please
just
upgrade
just
your
let it be.
software. Please do.
And if you're not with the Java use case, you can also take a look at AWS Transform, which has recently been announced as well for VMware and .NET. So we have Java today in QDeveloper and VMware and .NET in AWS Transform. So VMware, I know, is
it's a big topic.
It's a big topic, yes. Thankfully, not for today.
Yes.
But yes, it is a big topic.
We talked a lot about the AI frameworks and how we operate AI for developers today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a few minutes about the future.
Mm-hmm.
And first, do you think developer is a job for the future? And with where AI is moving, what's going to be the developer role in 5-10 years from now?
I've given you some hints here, Hamza. When I was telling you developers spend time, think AI will help them write code. And I was highlighting the latest developments in AI that bring the developer more towards taking a look at the planning, taking a look at the user stories, and figuring out if this is what their customers want before they build with AI. In my opinion, the developer role will still be here. However, with AI democratizing how we write code, a lot of people can now write code or create apps or make changes to apps. For example, now if I'm a product manager and someone comes to me, one of the users of the app is telling me, oh, I don't like this button to be green, I want it to be blue. As a product manager with AI, I can make that change. I do not need to open a ticket. I probably still will, but I do not need the developer's time to do that. My developers can now spend time doing something else. And what is that something else? Basically, is this human in the loop process that we discussed? So developers, rather than spending their time crafting small pieces of code that can very easily be replicated, unit tests, for example, they can be easily replicated just for different use cases, writing some boilerplate code for applications. AI can do that. As a developer now, I'm being taken a level above where I have to take a look at what the AI has shown me and think of the integrations between this code and the wider system. So I'm taking one step up. I need to think at scale. I need to think of system integration, system design. I need to review what the AI is proposing to me in terms of system design. Is this where I want to go or not? I need to think more independently than just before, where maybe I was given the ticket and executed it, and then given another ticket and executed it. So I think the developer role will only become more complex. But I personally wouldn't be scared because we had these changes before. Right, so remember I was telling you that I was close to front-end developers. And back in the day, actually, when the web got launched and the internet was cool, right? Another job sprung up. In the UK, we used to refer to it, and sorry for my terminology, but we used to say webmaster. You know, it was someone who would work primarily with the web. And then the programmers that were working in other languages, they were thinking, what is happening here? What is happening there? What's the future of this? You know, we don't have that job anymore today. We have front-end developers, as an example, but even them, they're now taken more towards full-stack developers. With the advent of server-side rendering, for example, they have to think of more than just their HTML page, right? So we had HTML before, now we have Next.js. Yeah. So I wouldn't be scared. I would say, yes, technology is evolving.
But
Yes.
we'll always use developers.
We'll
and
always
we'll
use
always
developers.
need developers because
Yes.
tomorrow's world is a heavy software world.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And we will see software and AI everywhere. So developers need to be very AI embedded, I would say, from now on.
Maybe a final question. With all of this, how do you stay current? I know you have like 12 certifications of AWS. How do you stay current with all the AI developments?
I would say this is a personal question. Obviously, I listen to the AWS podcast for AI.
For sure.
That is a start. I am actually a heavy YouTube consumer. So my media of choice is YouTube. I like to go and watch whatever is new. I like to build as well. So whenever we launch something new, I like to go and just open it and poke around it and ask it to create something for me and change it and break it. I would say it depends a lot on the person. For me, it works a lot when I go for walks or when I'm traveling. You know me and my flights. I always consume the podcast on whenever we release a new episode. I go on a flight and I just review the episode. So we do that. I consume a lot of video media, and I also go and once I learn about something, I go download it, open it, play around with it a little bit. So
just
that's
play around, understand, learn,
learn,
and do that
repetitively. Build something simple, add on top of that, and then throw myself into the deep end with my customers when they start asking me questions. That's also a way of going about it.
Just go build.
Go build.
Any final thoughts before we close this fascinating episode?
I think we had a good conversation. I am positive. I am optimistic about the future of development. It's changed a lot. Even in the 5 years I've been close to AWS development. So you see, in this 5 years, I have been working with different customers, but I have been looking at it from my AWS solutions architect lens. And even from this lens and from my community, I've seen it evolve so much that I can only think, okay, when I come to the episode with my red badge means 10 years in AWS, by the way, I wonder what we will think of. You know, I saw someone referring to vibe coding the other day as traditional vibe coding as opposed to spec-driven development. And I was thinking, okay, we have reached that stage. Yeah, it's only been a thing maybe a couple of months ago. So I'm really looking forward to see what the future brings.
Thank you very much, Mirabela.
Thank you, Hamza, for having me.
An interesting discussion.
Thank you, Hamza.
With that, we have reached the end of our fascinating discussion with Mirabela Dan. Software development is really evolving faster than ever before. And hopefully this episode gave you a glimpse on the future. I enjoyed today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a rating and review. And as always, until next time, this is Hamza Mimi thanking you for listening. Keep exploring, keep innovating, and we'll catch you on our next episode.